All right, welcome to your next lesson, which is more simplifying expressions. Today we're going to be simplifying expressions that have distributive property and some additional like terms that we'll have to combine at the end. So let's use our page sorter, head up to the learning goals today. Go ahead and highlight learning goal 24. It says, I'll be able to simplify expressions which include rational numbers and the distributive property. We can fill out that learning goal number 24 here and your date on the left side. All right, sliding down to our lesson today, let me get rid of the page sorter, and here we go. So first of all, remember that simplifying expressions means that we're getting rid of the parentheses. We're doing this by distributing. And then we need to eliminate all like terms. Okay, and we're going to do this by combining like terms. And we can just use CLT for combining like terms when we're making that note. All right, so let's look at this first one here. Remember that we need to use please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, PEMDAS. And so when we're simplifying, let's go ahead and take a look at the punctuation here. Can we combine 2x minus 3? And the answer is no. And so we're going to move on to the next step of PEMDAS. So are there any exponents? There are not, so we don't have to do that. Now looking at multiplication, division. So there is multiplication. It's the 6 times that quantity. And so we say yes, and this is distributing. Okay, and so we're going to distribute the 6 to both of those. I'm going to KFC that to uncomplicate that a little bit. 2 times 6 is going to be the 12x, plus 3 times 6 will be the negative 18. And then we'll bring down the minus 4. Now the next question, there's no more multiplication or division, so there is addition or subtraction through basically all addition because of KFC, so yes, and this will be combining like terms. So we're going to go ahead and separate the like terms, make sure you include the operation, and we see that we have a 12x is the only x club. And then I'm going to highlight the negative 18, these constants, and the negative 4. And we can see that we get, if we join those together, a negative 22. So I'm just going to put minus 22 to finish that off. Highlight my answer, and there we go. All right, on to the next one. Looking at, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally again, order of operations. I look at the punctuation. Can I combine 3z and 2? The answer is no. Are there any exponents? No. Is there multiplication or division? There is. There's a multiplication here. Now here's a rule that you need to be aware of. If we KFC this, you can see it a little bit more clearly. This is a negative 4 that needs to be distributed. Okay, and so it's really important that you make sure that you distribute the sign that is listed there. And so we're going to distribute that negative 4 to both those numbers. Okay, and when you do that, we have our 3 times a negative 4 is negative 12. And be careful writing your z so it doesn't look like a 2. Sometimes people put a little slash through there. And then plus negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And then we have our 9 plus that we can bring down. There is, oh, we forgot to say yes, there's multiplication. This is distributive. Now, is there any addition or addition through KFC? Yes, this is combining like terms. So that's where we are now. So I have this constant of 9, and then I have this negative 12z, and I have a negative 8. And so let's go ahead and highlight our constant of 9 and the constant of negative 8. When we combine those together, we get a positive 1 or a plus 1. We're going to write the term with a variable first. So I have a negative 12z, and we have a plus 1. Okay, it is correct, the negative 12z, it is correct to write the 1 minus the 12z, but typically you see any of the variables written first, but both are appropriate, okay, and accurate. All right, next one. Let me go ahead and highlight those answers. Let's go ahead and move down here. I'm going to go through, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, there's no punctuation, and so I'm going to go ahead and look and see if there's any exponents. There are not. And next is multiplication division. There's none of that, and so we are just down to addition and subtraction. So we're going to combine like terms. I could go through and KFC all of these. If you don't need to do that, that's okay too. I'm going to go ahead and cancel these out just so I can clearly see the terms, and then go ahead and start highlighting. So here's all my constants, okay, and then I'll pick a different color and we'll get the Y club here. Go ahead and take care of the Y club first. So I have a negative 7.2 and a negative 4.2, same signs, add and keep. 7.2 plus 4.2, we're keeping the sign, which is negative. And then we get 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I have a negative 11.4y, and then I have a 6 and a negative 11, different signs subtract, and we end up with a negative 5. So negative 11.4y minus 5, or you could flip-flop that around as well. All right, highlight my answer, and moving on to number 2. All right. Inside the parentheses, I cannot combine. There's no exponents, so we're moving to multiplication. This is a 1/2 distributed to both of these. I'm going to KFC this to uncomplicate that. This is half of 9x. Now, you can do side work over here. Okay, this is 9 x over 1, and you end up, oops, not 1/9, sorry about that, 1/2 times 9x over 1. So you can see that you end up with 9/2 x. If you don't need to do that side work because you just see how that'll go, that's fine. You can just write 9/2 x plus negative 4/2. Okay. You may also know that you can write that even more pretty looking. So 9/2 is actually 4.5 or 4.5x plus, and a negative 4/2 is actually just a negative 2. So both are correct. This one's a little bit prettier looking. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead to number 3. It gets a little bit more complicated with the negatives, but let's go ahead and take a look at this. We're going to distribute the negative 2/3 to both those terms since we can't combine them. And so I'm going to do a little bit of work on the side over here. So I have a negative 2/3 times negative 8 over 1x, and we end up with a positive 16/3, and that is x, plus a negative 2/3 times 5 over 1 equals negative 10/3 over there. Okay, so if we go ahead and put that together, I have my 16/3 x plus negative 10/3. Okay, and you can just leave it right at that. Okay, alrighty. on to number, skips to 6. On to number 6 here. Let's go ahead and distribute to the 1/2. Okay, this one's a little bit nice here. You probably don't need to do some side work, but if you need to, that's fine. I just know half of 6 is 3. So we have 3x plus, I know half of 8 is 4, but that's a -4. And then we have our plus 11. To simplify this fully, we need to combine all like terms that are left over. I see my constant of -4 and positive 11. So we end up with 3x, different sign subtract, and we end up with plus 7, okay, as our final answer. And the last one, let's go ahead and take a look at this right away. Remember KFC, this is a plus a, well, let's look at this. Remember, you have this invisible 1 in here. So this is plus a -1 that I'm actually distributing. So getting rid of some of that invisible math is sometimes really helpful. All right, there's no way to combine within the parentheses. There's no exponents. So we're on our multiplication, which is distributing this -1. I'm going to KFC the inside here to unsimplify that a little bit, or to uncomplicate that. So let's go ahead and look at this. We have a -1 times a 1/2. And that's just going to give us a -1/2 plus a -1 times a -8v actually gives me a positive 8v. I'm going to bring down my other terms here. And there we go. All right, so order of operations says that I'm going to do this addition from left to right. And so I have 3/4 plus a -1/2. I need common denominators. You might be able to just do this in your head, but I'll write it down here anyway. I'm going to change the -1/2 by multiplying by 2/2, and I end up with -2/4, and then we get -6/4 for that, okay? And so, whoops, no, we do not. Different sign subtract. We end up with a 1/4 for that. So you got to be careful with that stuff. Okay. All right. And then we have 1/4 plus 8v plus 5v. I'm combining my like terms here. We'll do our castle to just peek at that. My two like terms are a positive 8v and a positive 5v. So I end up with 1/4 plus 13v, and that is my final answer. All right, there we go. You can see the process for combining or for simplifying more complex expressions with rational numbers.